Well, it is a pleasure to welcome back Roy Snell for part 3 of our interview on his latest book, which I have here, Integrity Works. So, Roy, welcome back.
Good to be here.
You wrote a chapter called The Truth and Civil Debate. Roy, what is civil debate and how does it relate to integrity?
I believe it very strongly that getting to the truth, well, let's put it this way. What is the opposite of groupthink? Civil debate, maybe. I mean, if groupthink will get you into trouble, civil debate will get you out of trouble. In other words, people will tell you stuff you need to hear. Or together, two people that might even be fellow members of some kind of groupthink could sit there and question each other's statements and get to a better answer. Civil debate is an art form, and certainly in our society today, civil debate is sorely lacking. And as a result of people's statements being questioned, some things are being said that aren't true, and they're not being civilly debated. They're being attacked, and nobody's learning anything.
Right.
One of the greatest elements of civil debate is understanding the other person's point before you go off. And the best people I've ever seen do this is before they start discussing something, before they start trying to make their point, that they try and make the point. They want to explain to the other person their case. They want to make the other person's case. Everybody tells you to listen. I'm so tired of trite sayings. Well, listen on the. No, prove it to me. Do it. Take an action step. You want to prove that you listen? Describe the other person's position and have them correct you until they're satisfied with your description of their position. There are people doing this right now. And there's a group of people that I studied that are doing this, and it's stunning. I mean, polar opposite views on as sensitive a topic as you could have, and the two of them are there having this wonderful discussion that normally is a shouting match. So again, I want to repeat: the truth is a core principle of integrity. Honesty is a core principle of integrity, and I don't believe you can get to the truth with civil debate is one way to get to the truth. And as I think most people would agree, civil debate is a mess right now, and that we got to get back to it. And if you want to work on your integrity, have civil debate. If you want to have civil debate, make somebody's case for them before you tell them they're wrong.
You remind me a little bit of my high school debating coach, where he said, I know that you are where you need to be, where if right before the debate I told you you're arguing the other side, you could do it with the same level of knowledge and intensity.
Yeah, if there's anybody out there that is still in high school listening to this, or better yet, somebody out there wanting their children to have a strong character, go back and see if you can't convince them to get into some form of debate.
Yeah.
Learn about this. Now that you mention it, I kind of wish I had my daughters learn more about this, or be a part of a debate team. Back when I was in school, it was not cool, and as it turns out, sadly, it's one of the coolest things I could have done.
Well, let's talk about social media. We both enjoy social media. In fact, you're not leaving New York without us getting what's called a Snell feed.
I need it. I
All
need it.
Okay. Now, let's talk about social media and civil debate. And here I'm even speaking of our compliance discourse. Like, do you see our social media channels as opening up our thinking, or polarizing it, or both? And I mean, I'll give you an example. One of my clients is an employee of a global multinational that's gone through their issues, and now they're thankfully coming out the other side. Mm-hmm. And one of the employees was very excited and tweeting about being at their global compliance conference, and it was really exciting to see it on my tweet feed. So I was happy to like it and retweet it. And someone from our field lobbed on a sarcastic comment that, in my opinion, wasn't very nice, helpful, or supportive of what's been a real challenge.
Quite often an inaccurate statement.
Yeah, so, Roy, I wasn't going to even ask you this question until that happened, but when it did, and I thought of civil debate, how is social media impacting this all?
I got to tell you, there's so much to this. Social media is hurting and helping. It's a wonderful, terrible tool. It's just torture fest. Thank gosh we got it. It's hard and all that. But very specifically, to answer your question very specifically, there's basically three ways to respond to that. One is ignore it, which is the people who I am impressed by quite often do. Then there is to be as big a jerk back as you can be and make the same mistake, which people who don't impress me do. But what I absolutely love to do, and I really don't get a chance to do it that much because I'm probably a little too careful on social media. I don't get a lot of this sort of negative crud, but I have had a few, and what I just love to do is to address it, but take the high road, as I like to say, to the point in which I need an oxygen mask. and there's nothing more enjoyable to me to responding to, sorry, this is a weird word, but a toad, and an inaccurate, inappropriate, or statements that lack integrity, or they're unethical, or they're just mean, right? And I love to work on a response for quite a while before I press send, put it away, think about it, wait a day, maybe.
That goes back to our sleep discussion.
Sleep is so helpful for not making a mistake like this. And then when I think I got it just right, put it on there, and everybody, if you do it right, people will look at it and go, "Oh, that was smooth." And I am going to be doing some video blogging with a compliance colleague, Andro Popa, on a topic called Discovering Integrity, where we're going to interview people, and you've already promised to be one of our victims, and we're gonna keep searching for integrity and that sort of thing. And I've warned her that when we post this stuff, we're going to be called stupid, fat, and ugly. And I said, we gotta keep focused on what we want to accomplish to help teach and learn and explore. And I did tell her, though, that I might have some fun with some of them and say, here's some comments that came our way, and I want to share them, and then I want to talk about them relative to integrity and honesty and truth. And if I handle it right, it'll be a beautiful, teachable moment, and I'll get a little satisfaction out of responding to a toad.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing these debates get sparked. Now, of the three options that you described, I decided on A, ignore, and then just ask Roy about it. So that's what I did. So
it's good. It's an excellent choice, by the way. Is if you answer all of them, and some days there can be a lot, and some people's lives, ours maybe a little bit less, but it will consume you, and you can't let them take you off your focus. Sorry for
well said.
Getting all wound up there.
So let's talk about cancel culture. I never even heard of that till I read your book. What is it?
Well, it's a situation right now where, again, the opposite of civil debate is what you're saying is so wrong you can't even say it. Another way that people describe it sometimes is political correctness. And political correctness, thank goodness, came along a few years ago, and it was for correcting just egregious, horrifically cruel statements, particularly about groups of people. And thank goodness we have a little more political correctness these days. But a few people have hijacked the concept. Words get hijacked all the time. And they have now said, look, I'm going to use political correctness, an accusation of political correctness to stop people from talking that are sharing philosophy or ideas that I just don't want to hear, as opposed to something that is really harmful to others. Another way to describe it is certain people are being barred from speaking at various conferences or campuses or whatever. And as we talked about earlier, and I didn't really finish the thought very well, that was what the quote is in my book from Barack Obama, who was saying, enough already with the throwing stones, and it isn't getting you anywhere, and that is an activism, and stop with the cancel culture, which is just essentially, in short, saying, don't talk. And where it comes into play with integrity and why it was a good question is to get to the truth. Any philosopher, I read Socrates and Plato and all these others, and there was actually this age of reason. I'm really going to digress on you now, but this is such an interesting concept. As I was writing this book, I realized there was an age of reason. And it kind of sounded like, I thought of it because I think we're right now in the age of unreason with this stop talking, cancel culture, political correctness maybe taken a little too far. And I thought, wasn't there this period called the age of reason? Maybe that was the opposite of cancel culture. And so I looked it up. Sure enough, it was just a period of about 100 years where people were not thrown in jail for sharing things like the earth is round, and that the earth evolves around the sun, and various other less scientific, more philosophical statements that are highly debatable. And there was miraculous improvement in science and medicine and philosophy. And all that happened was people were allowed to speak. And so I can't emphasize enough, all those great thinkers that came out of that era said civil debate gets you to the truth.
Okay.
Stopping people from debating or even talking cancel culture and some other things is just the opposite. We're not going to have integrity without truth. We're not going to have truth without civil debate. And we're in the age of unreason, and we need to swing the pendulum back. And again, it's part of the reason why I wrote the book.
So let's talk about the listening part of that. So Roy, we have compliance expectations, and then we have commercial realities. And in between the two is where we can often have integrity gaps. So Roy, are we doing a good job listening to each other in order to mitigate those gaps? Because from my experience, every organization has gaps between those compliance expectations and those commercial realities. But if listening is the key to communicating, to growing, as you've been sharing, are we listening to each other, to mitigate those gaps? I remember a former boss of mine in the sales field once said, if you're talking, you're not listening. So this is a good time for me to shut up and ask you to answer
and
the
I'm sitting here thinking that it is really challenging. I've done a lot of interviews in my day, and it's really, especially if you've been working at it for an hour or so, and it's really hard to listen. But once again, this is time for an idea, a practical tool. I don't have one handy, but I might make one up on the spot.
Okay.
This is why this experience of writing this book on integrity has been great, because I'm learning so much. But, I'll bet you it exists somewhere in the literature where people have said there's actual listening sessions, that again, maybe compliance professionals should do a listening risk assessment. Where is it in the organization that people might not be listening? Same thing with the groupthink. If you can find the pockets of the groupthink, you can find risk, and you should go there and undo the groupthink.
Right. Unpack that.
By getting them with people who don't think like them and have a discussion or a debate. Same thing's true with listening. Maybe we should be doing listening risk assessments and maybe surveying people, like who's not listening. I don't know. I'm thinking on the fly here, but you should go into those pockets and sit them down with people that they respect, force them into a conversation. You and I were discussing earlier today about get some dust in there.
Yep.
You know, stir up
Make
a little.
some difficult issues discussable. Yeah.
So, but again, I'd always come back again. If you want to talk about listening, go to some philosopher. If you want to listen, repeat the other person's point till they say you've got it. That's what listening is. All the rest is just talking. You know, that I'm a listener and I listen to you. And no, you got to understand what I'm saying. You got to repeat what I'm saying to prove it. And by the way, you know, listening to you and others that I've talked to about this book, I can't make notes fast enough when I talk to you guys about new things I'm discovering and learning and ideas I get to steal and hopefully give you credit for later when I use them again. But it's mutual, I'm sure. Hopefully, we both.
I've got some Royisms that are a permanent part of when I share my experience with organizations. But one of the things that you talk about in your book, in the toolkit, are ethical dilemma workshops to help different teams, right? Compliance teams mixing up with commercial teams, sort of peer-to-peer ethical dilemma workshops to get people opening up the debate, opening up listening skills, opening up civility, and to maybe debate and try to understand dilemmas from different perspectives to sort of take a look at what you might think is one problem, but from a multi-dimensional perspective. Have you seen those?
Yeah,
helpful?
I'm going to admit something right now. I didn't listen to a thing you said just now. I
do that to people.
No, I got something in my head that I've just got to say. You know, your questions and comments and thoughts that we've been sharing over the course of these 3 videos have been some profoundly interesting stuff. And as you were asking me the question I didn't hear, I was thinking, why does Richard understand all this stuff? And obviously the stuff you went through with challenges in your sales profession and the bribery and all these sorts of things and now you've taken all that you've learned, which you learned a lot, and you're going out and teaching people about as opposed to theoretically babbling on about how we ought to have integrity, you go, I know exactly how I did it. I know exactly how I got in trouble. I think I know exactly how to prevent it. And you have all these ideas about bringing people together, which that question that I didn't hear, I heard enough to know it was something related to that. These are great ideas. My point is that I should have contacted you before I wrote the book. And when I go do these Discovering Integrity video blogs with Andra, I'm gonna explore this more about stirring up discussion. Go look for gaps in listening. Go look for or pockets of groupthink and bringing this concept. It's a theme.
Kicking up the dust, as we said.
It's a theme that you have that is really a good idea, is bring these 2 people together, bring these 2 groups together. Your appreciation of the Harvard article about accountability partners. This is a theme that compliance and ethics professionals should. You know, sometimes we're stuck in our office and we're doing PowerPoints and we're going to meetings and we're talking to our own people and we're looking over there and it's, gosh, those are guys, that group, they have to learn something. Well, now I just look around and maybe this group and that group could talk. I have no idea what your question was, sir.
Well,
I just wanted to get that out.
When I've seen it happen at company functions where commercial and compliance teams are mixing it up, surfacing some unknowns and making difficult issues discussable. I mean, a form of camaraderie develops from what can be very heated discussions that, I mean, you can't put value on that. It's just incredible to see it grow.
But I want to get back to this thing about what you've taken your trouble and toil and turned it into go help people. You get it. You can sit in that room and help them hear and discuss things that you wish you would have had happen for you but didn't.
Yeah.
And again, I appreciate the fact that you never blame anybody but yourself.
Cheating is always a choice.
Yes,
That's my
sir.
Royism. Okay.
But one thing that really has to be stated here is bringing all these people in and kicking up the dust. I'm telling you something, man. I assume you must be good at this facilitation, because if the facilitator isn't good enough when you bring these groups together and you're kicking up a little dust to try and build awareness and kill groupthink and get people to think differently, get a little heated, get a little frustrated, the facilitator has to have mad skills. So one tip I would give any compliance professional: if you don't have tested experience facilitating heated discussions, don't do it. Hire it out.
Oh, yeah.
Find it. And I imagine that's something that you have done. That there's this flashpoint. Okay, the flame is too big, people. I'm interrupting. We're going to have a little chat about something that I can do to get the room back down to the civil debate level. I'll bet you're very good at that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. And the fun part about that is once it starts, I just want to get out of everybody's way.
Yeah, well, look, the best
Right?
facilitator doesn't talk.
That's exactly
However,
right.
the best facilitator knows when to talk and how to jump in. And really, I love where this is going, and your emphasis on accountability partners and groupthink and all these deals is that, sometimes the problem can solve itself with the right bringing of people together. Yeah. And exposing people to other viewpoints and letting them get into the difficult discussion, but always having, there's a little governor thing on an engine. I always used to remove it on my mini bike. The engine would go faster, but it'd blow up sooner. Is you pull the governor off. This is where you got to put the governor on. If you're going to do some of the stuff we're talking about today, you got to have mad skills, or hire somebody with mad skills at being able to diffuse a discussion that kind of have gone haywire.
Agreed. So Roy, concluding, and I hope this won't be our last interview, here's the book. How do we get it?
The corporate compliance.org website, the HCCA-info website, either SEC or HCCA. It's going to be a little bit of time, maybe, but it'll also be on Amazon, so people hopefully be able to find it quickly. I really hope it helps a lot of folks, and I hope people find it helpful enough to maybe give it to others that they want to teach about bias, civil debate, critical thinking, being authentic, and other things that will help their team deal with some of these struggles.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful piece, and I think I'd like to end our discussion with a question about the beginning of the book. Can you tell us about the dedication and
thank you.
A lovely picture that was a part of it?
This is my second dedication. Don't tell my family that. But the first dedication was to all you people. Everybody I ever met and discussed anything with in all my 5 years in compliance and ethics. My mind is a cacophony of all these discussions, and really the book is, whatever I know, is a result of you people. Karen doesn't like me saying that. My editor, don't call people you people. But towards the end, I'm kind of pretty sure this is going to be my last book, and I thought, really, whatever I am, whatever good I have, whatever integrity I have, is a result of getting married and having children, and realizing I can't get off the rails too far here. I'm no paragon of virtue. I cringed every time I thought about it. Who am I to tell people about integrity? I'm not perfect, but I would be a lot less perfect if it wasn't for them. And one other point that I stated in the dedication is I hope my daughters and everybody else is more successful with their integrity, because if they are successful with their integrity, they'll have a happier life, which is my ultimate wish for my daughters, who I care a lot about.
Well, it was a picture of happiness, so that was really nice for
Thank
you to
you.
put
Thank
that
you.
in the book. Roy, it's been great chatting with you,
Thank you, sir.
and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
We'll do it.
Thank you.